Good morning, sunshine. Welcome to another day of the Make Your Damn Bed podcast. Today's episode is dedicated to anyone who has some harsh feelings about the holidays in general. And I'm going to be talking about specifically Christmas during this because that's the experience I have the most tension with. But if the familial based holidays affect you in other ways and you don't celebrate Christmas, buckle up, baby. I'm trying to keep this stuff relatable, you know? It gets really complicated for me around the holidays, specifically because I do love the fact that I have the freedom to not be around people who have hurt me in the past. That said, there is a lot of me who has that FOMO, and I sometimes get into pity parties where I feel bad about myself not having the close-knit family that so many other people idealize and kind of document during the holiday season. And when you hear every moral of every Christmas song and every Christmas story to be about spending time with your loved ones, it can get a little intense. And you can feel pretty bad about yourself if you're not careful with the media you're consuming or with the headspace you're in when you're consuming it. And lately, I've been feeling that heat, whereas the last couple of years, I felt really excited to be able to have nobody to spend time with. This year, it's felt a little more complicated. So I made myself drive home to see my dad. It's just going to be him and I, and my friend Mike might come over. But I made this up last minute, and I'm lucky enough and privileged enough to have a relationship with my father that's really great. And even though we won't do anything to really celebrate, we will be together, which is nice. But if you are someone who doesn't have the option to opt into last minute experiences, and honestly, this advice can apply to anyone spending it with people too, in the sense that it is more than okay to prioritize yourself. It is more than okay to become your number one priority in order to be the best you and show up for the things you value and want to contribute to in your life. And if you don't have anything right now that you want to contribute to and you're like, well, I don't really know what's next, that's okay too. These between times are really okay. But I think it's really about getting comfortable admitting when you need a connection or when you need a break and offering yourself a sense of that through any means that you can. There have been many a year where I craved connections and did not have access to it because I was in Chicago and couldn't afford to take time and come home. And while I'm forever grateful that I got that opportunity this year to last minute decide to come home, I recognize that that's not always an option for everybody. So what I have done in the past to make these times a little bit easier, if you're in this specific window of missing people, but having complicated relationship with the holidays in general, and not necessarily having access to people or wanting access to people or whatever it may be, what I like to do is channel the things that do make me feel good about the holiday and focus on that. And if I'm craving connection with someone, say my grandmother, who's my favorite human on the planet, but is no longer with us, I can't really do much about that. But what I can do is create the environment that I think she would have most likely created herself or contributed to or really appreciated if she were here, and connect to her through that. That's why I think food is such a valuable thing. Music is such a valuable thing. If you have songs, if you have stories, if you have items that contribute to certain feelings, movies, anything that reminds you of the good times in it without triggering all of the negativity with it can be really powerful. But if you do have some feelings of depth and sadness, it's okay too. Let those happen. You know, those feelings can empower us to really get in touch with what we do value and what we do need and what we're lacking. So don't necessarily stifle those, but also recognize that you can empower yourself, if you so choose, to feel those feelings in a more nuanced, but maybe a less depressing way by doing it more intentionally. And instead of grieving the people for not being with us, appreciating the moment and the magic that you have created by curating the environment that reminds you of them and brings you back that feeling. And sitting in that in a more intentional way can kind of deter the grief from really taking over. Because sometimes I think that holidays can bring up a lot of these grieving points that we don't even realize we have buried. And before they can hit us, sometimes it can be really good to kind of play defensive mode and stop them in their tracks, you know, and not be blindsided when it does come in, because we curated the best parts of those feelings rather than waiting for the inevitable bad parts of those feelings that usually do show up on times like this. So if you foresee any of that happening to you. Sometimes it can be a really good plan to kind of nip it in the bud before it comes at you. Prepare for the worst, but expect the best kind of thing. And really just take as much time as you possibly need for yourself. And if you really are craving any sense of connection, you can email me at mydbpodcast@gmail.com or send me a DM at mydbpodcast. I check it every 24 to 48 hours, so I can get back to you as shortly as possible. I'm here for you. I love you so much. Regardless of how you spend today or the next few days or whatever day this may be that you're listening to this in real time, I love you. I hope today is as magic as you are, and I'll talk to you tomorrow while you make your damn bed. Bye, cutie.